Well, people have been asking how the Garden Railroad's coming.
Oh, it's coming along.
It's coming right along. Just to update everybody, take it back to the very beginning. We started on this project July of 2019.
Wow.
And this was version 1.
Uh-huh.
Let's call this the beta test. And one of the things we learned from this is just how much fun it is having trains out in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
I had a ball running trains out here, but the other lesson was that the design was completely inadequate. The level of construction, everything was just inadequate. So we started over 2 years ago.
Right.
Jeez. Tore the whole thing out and just started all over again. So this is version 2, and it's actually working out much better. The next thing we added was the overhead and all the overhead wiring, because the whole thing has overhead lights. And it's also a trellis for the vines to climb. At any rate, here's the way it looked fall of last year when we were ready to more or less put it to bed for the winter. It's holding up really, really well. It's working really well. It's all on temporary wiring as far as the power to the track, but it's working super well.
Oh, just don't run the train off the end of the track.
It is precarious right there.
It sure is.
Anyway, come the spring, we were ready to get it running again.
Hi, squirrel. You have a squirrel.
Now, there was one bit of major damage. Hi, squirrel. The tree tipped over.
Yes.
And so we've got...
It's ongoing, isn't it?
It's been trying to tip over for some years. It blew over in the big windstorm, and then the one snowstorm brought part of it down, and now it's all just in a big mess. And so, unfortunately, they say we have to take the whole tree down now. This is the definition of mixed feelings.
Right.
I really hated to lose the tree, but I was really happy to see the thing gone.
Right.
All at the same time, because it's been an ongoing problem, and the tree guy said, no, this time it's going to tip over and destroy your railroad, so we took it out. So we're ready to continue construction and add on here where the railroad just suddenly ends.
Yes, I hope so.
Now, this was the original plan, and here's the section that we've already built, the grapevine.
Aptly named.
Now, again, the original plan called for this section over here to be a planter. So we were going to build a brick wall, a block wall all the way across this area and fill it with soil. And that was a grand idea till we found out what that would cost to do.
A little bit of cash over.
Yeah, we also had a plan to put these 10-foot diameter loops at both ends of the railroad for continuous running. And at this point, I'm sort of rethinking that too. Just because I don't relish the idea of mowing under there.
I like the idea of it just going into the garage.
Yeah, and just point to point without the big loops.
Right.
So plan B or C or D or whatever we're up to now has been to build this section against the back wall almost exactly the same as the other section, because the other section's working out so well.
Exactly.
The only difference being this won't have the big overhead for the vines because, well, there aren't any vines over here.
Always good to not have vines growing into the overhead power lines.
Yeah, we'll be happy to just have this straight up simple.
Right.
So here's the posts. They are 8-foot posts, 8-foot fence posts, because one of the lessons learned on the original section was bury these things at least 2 feet into the ground.
Right.
And then that means that they have to be 8 feet tall just so we can cut them down to the proper height and make sure they're all the same height. So the only way to ensure that is to use 8-foot posts. And then it's also super critical, again, as we found out with the first failed attempt, make sure everything is absolutely square and straight up and down. Plumb level and square.
That is looking so good.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Now it just remains to cut these down to the proper height and then start building the framework on the top of it. And there it is. Now they'll be the same 2x4 floor joists, I guess you could call it, on top of all of this. We're making this so strong you could literally drive a car on it.
Oh, good.
Because after that first failed attempt, it's like, yeah, I've never regretted overbuilding something, but boy, have I regretted underbuilding something.
Right.
And so we regretted underbuilding the first one, and we're not going to regret overbuilding this one. Now, as you can see, we're also getting some professional help here.
Exactly. We have to hire a lot of this done.
Especially the hole digging. I just can't.
No.
But I like to do as much of it as I humanly can. But there's some things you just have to hire someone to do. Anyway, there it is, ready for the cross pieces and the decking. And then at that point, I want to temporarily lay some track on here just to make sure that my curves are all figured out correctly and whatnot. But then we need to get the roofing material on here because if it rains, I don't want any of this to get wet.
Right.
Everything's going to be super waterproof.
Right.
Now there's also the ramp which will go up to the garage so that the trains can actually pull into the garage. And because the outside layout is at a slightly lower elevation than the inside layout, that's requiring this grade, this ramp. And I just wanted to rough that in and then run some trains up and down it temporarily to make sure again that the grade works out really well, the curves work out really well. I want to test everything before saying, yeah, that's going to work, and then putting on the roofing material and permanently laying the track. Now, another lesson learned is we're using Llagas Creek nickel silver track.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff. Before we were using aluminum rail on LGB ties and some other ties that we had, and that was a major part of our problem. This has not let us down at all. This is working great. And everything checked out just fine, so before the weather sets in, I decided I better get the roofing material on here.
Oh, we've had some rain, I'll tell you.
That's right, and it's threatening storm again, so I went and got some roofing material, and I'm hurriedly, is that a word?
It is now, because you have to do it in a hurry.
Got to do it in a hurry, and I got the roofing material on here, and then went around. Everything is caulked in with a roofing caulk as well, to make sure that water can't get in and around the seams and the cracks and the edges. And it actually comes out absolutely watertight. And the following day, case in point.
Oh boy, is that a gondola going by there?
Oh yeah, this was a significant flood in the middle of a year of significant floods. But you can see that it, using this technique, it totally keeps the water off of the wood, and then everything continues to work just fine. The wiring is protected, the wood is protected. It's essentially just like the roof on your house.
Yes.
So check it out. We're about to venture off what used to be the cliff to nowhere. And instead of dropping 4 feet to the ground, we're pulling out onto the new section and going through the curve over to the wall and ultimately the ramp, which will go up inside the garage.
Well, how cool.
Is this neat?
That's just fun.
The railroad just grew by a factor of 2. It's about twice as big as it was last year.
Right. What is wrong with the sound of that locomotive?
Well, either the speaker's blown or the soundboard is blown, but it's I'm going to take all the electronics out and throw it away. Was it awkward?
Yeah. As soon as I get a feel for it, I need to get the seat up a little higher.
Yes. So we're taking a break from screwing around to do some other screwing around.
Right.
One does not live by trains alone.
No, sometimes you got to go on 2 wheels.
In the meantime, now construction is moving to inside.
Right.
Because here pretty soon the trains are going to be pulling up into the inside of the garage, and I'm opening up the walls and figuring out all of that, and we will be cutting this gigantic hole in the side of the garage. But that's a subject for a future show.
Right.
So we'll actually pick that up like next week.
Oh, okay.
But there it is. There's the pathway that the trains will take once they're inside the garage. Well, the progress is kind of slow, but you know, we're in no hurry.
No.
We're enjoying doing it more than anything else, so why would we want to rush?
Well, and that's the main thing then, is to enjoy it.
Enjoy the build, enjoy the project. Now, as you may know, we've rolled out channel membership, so if you want to go to the channel page, you can look at that and just make a decision for yourself if you want to become a member or not. But one way or the other, doesn't cost you a darn thing to subscribe. Just click on the upcoming subscribe button, and then that way you can follow along as we finish out the project. And the easy way to do that is with the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Sunday with the Sunday Show. We'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.